The most popular AI agent framework in the world just got dethroned. In May 2026, Hermes Agent hit #1 on OpenRooter's global rankings, processing 224 billion tokens a day according to Mark Tech Post. OpenClaw, the framework with 347,000 stars on GitHub, dropped to #2. And the reason it happened has nothing to do with features.
Hey, I'm Johnny Nell. I spent years building businesses the old hard way, managing teams, scaling operations, and doing everything manually. Today, everything I built, from automations and no-code infrastructures to fully AI SaaS products, has AI helping in one way or another.
Firstly, let me quickly show you this. In South Africa, we call this a braai.
I build with AI tools that, in my opinion, anyone can learn to use. My mission is simple: to help creators, entrepreneurs, and business owners get clarity with AI. Let's build smarter together and enjoy this video.
Most comparisons out there are feature checklists from someone who skimmed through the docs. This is a head-to-head from someone who runs both frameworks and has broken both in production. I run an OpenClaw-based agent every single day. It handles my content pipeline, my research, my scheduling. And last month, I spun up Hermes Agent alongside it to stress test the one claim everyone keeps making, that it actually learns from its mistakes. What I found doesn't give you a winner, it gives you a decision framework, and that's worth a lot more. So here's what we're covering: the architecture split that shapes everything downstream, the memory gap that actually separates these two, and it's not what you think, and also the security story that nobody is telling honestly on either side, and which one to pick based on what you're actually building, not what sounds cooler on X. You see, picking the wrong framework, you're either locked into a system where 1,467 plus skills in its marketplace have security flaws. 76% of them confirmed malicious prompt injection layered on top of the traditional malware, according to Snike's toxic skills study. So take that into consideration. Or you're betting your production stack on a framework that is a few months old with a default security posture of allowing everything. You see, this is not a case where the one has more integrations, and now we're running with that. This is which one won't break at scale and share your vulnerable information voluntarily. And here's what should keep you up, considering all of these facts. Your agent is accumulating context you've never audited. Your permissions are the same ones set on day one when you're just trying to get something working. So something is running your credentials right now, and you might not know exactly what it can or can't do. And take it from me, I found this out the hard way when my own OpenClaw instance was running an exposed configuration for 3 weeks before I caught it. Nothing happened that time, but it's not to say that something like that wouldn't happen again. This is why this is crucially important. So let's jump straight in. So the first point that we're going to look at is the architecture. So let's start with how these two frameworks think about the word, because it determines everything else. OpenClaw is a gateway server that routes messages across 16 plus messaging platforms into an agent runtime. As described in the official architecture docs, you can think about it, the switchboard operator sitting between your users and your AI. And it doesn't care what you build, it just makes sure that messages get to where they need to go. Where Hermes Agent on the other side is the opposite. It's an execution engine that happens to connect to platforms, so it doesn't think about routing that much. It thinks about getting tasks done. OpenClaw organizes agents where Hermes is the agent. Not to say that either of them can't fit each other's roles. The reasons why this matters is if you need one system talking across Telegram, Slack, Discord, WhatsApp, the web, etc., OpenClaw was built for that. If you need an agent that gets better at completing complex tasks over time, Hermes was built for that. Same category, completely different design philosophy. Now again, not to say that they can't do what either of them can do individually. Moving from there, we can look at point number 2, which is the memory gap. And this is a huge thing. We've had OpenClaw instances similar to Claw Code where users connect the Obsidian, trying to configure it with different third-party integrations, looking at different APIs, infrastructures. But the real differentiator is understanding how the memory gap works and how these agents go and retrieve the information to ensure that everything is stored securely. By the way, I did drop a full-on comprehensive document that you can upload to any of your agents, whether it's Claude Code, Hermes Agent, or OpenClaw, inside of our school community below. I'll drop the link down in the description for you to access it. The memory gap is the real differentiator. Not the star counts, not the plugin members, memory. Hermes Agent uses a 3-layer memory system: prompt memory, episodic archive, and skill memory. After it finishes a complex task, it writes a structured record of what worked, what failed, and what to try differently next time. These become reusable skill MD files with procedures, failure modes, and verification steps. The next time it encounters a similar task, it retrieves those records and performs better. That is not a feature, that is a feedback loop. A cause, a mechanism effect. Task completion generates structured reflection, and reflection gets indexed and retrieved on similar future tasks, where retrieval produces measurably better outcomes on the next run. The agent just compounds, and that is crucial. By the way, we've also got a great guide on how to bring in local models to help keep it efficient. So you could just run Hermes on the $20 a month ChatGPT subscription. Anyway, that's in the school community down below as well. So OpenClaw's memory is whatever you manually configure. You can bolt on multiple different memories through its plugin ecosystem, and that ecosystem is massive. But out the box, OpenClaw doesn't retain what it learned between sessions. Every conversation starts fresh unless you've built a perspective layer yourself. For quick interactions across many platforms, that's fine, but for deep work that needs to get smarter over time, when you think about research within the context, whether you're doing content creation, complex workflows, etc., the difference is night and day. And if the memory is not set up correctly, that could also become vulnerable to attacks. And that leads me to point number 3, security. This is where I need you to pay very close attention, because both sides can be dishonest about this, just in different directions. OpenClaw's security is public and ugly. The CVE, that's a CVS 8.8 remote code execution vulnerability tracked in the National Vulnerability Database. One click, your authentication tokens gets exfiltrated and they're inside your system. Now, OpenAI has been doing a very, very good job in assisting to patch all of that up, but every single update almost creates a huge technical challenge to overcome. I see this in the community. We help, obviously, each other to overcome that. It's frustrating to go through it. But by the time the researchers were looking, InfoSecurity magazine reported over 40,000 OpenClaw instances exposed on the public internet. That is 63% of the ones they observed were still vulnerable. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Hive Security tracked 100 in total CVEs against OpenClaw in 2026 alone. And not to mention Claw Hub, the skill marketplace. Snike's toxic skills study found 1,467 plus skills with security flaws. Now, important distinction, 76 of those confirmed malicious, but not all 1,467. But 90% of the malicious ones combined prompt injection with traditional malware techniques. It is a work in progress, but my question to you as a non-technical founder is, can you risk going through all of that without really having the help and the know-how to go about resolving it? 10.9% of all of the skills in the marketplace contained hard-coded secrets. That's API keys, tokens, credentials sitting right there in the code. The Hermes crowd loves pointing at those numbers and saying, see, we're safer. That's not entirely true. You see, Hermes Agent has 0 agent-specific CVEs, but an independent security audit in April 2026 found 4 critical and 9 high-severity findings in its default configuration. Now, from my experience, looks like that's been patched, but it's unrestricted shell execution, unrestricted file system access, approval bypass when running in containers, and persistent skill creation with no sandboxing. The default security posture is a allow all. Now, here's the mechanism chain that should scare you. Broad permissions in default configuration leads to unconstrained tool access, which leads to a goal obstacle collision. The agent wants to complete your tasks and something is in the way, which leads to an improvised workaround, which leads to unintended consequences nobody authorized. Now again, we've got all of the security architectures, all of the documentation that you need, in my opinion, to be able to set this up and remove as much of the security risk as possible from either of these platforms. Think about it in this way. If you tell a human assistant, get this done by any means necessary, they have social consequences and legal fear to constrain them. And an AI agent has none of those. See it like this. OpenClaw's thread is someone breaking in, where Hermes' thread is your own agent breaking out. Neither framework is fully secure out of the box, but their failure modes are completely different and the fixes are completely different. With OpenClaw, you're hardening a parameter, locking down exposed instances, auditing marketplace skills, patching CVEs as they drop. With Hermes, you're containing an execution engine, scoping permissions, sandboxing skill creation, building approval gates into every destructive operation. And that's actually good news, because once you understand the model, you can fix it. You're not stuck. You're informed. Quick pause, guys. I do break down exactly how I harden both of these frameworks as mentioned. In the specific settings I run in my production OpenClaw agent, the 5-layer permission audit spreadsheet, and the word-for-word escalation rules I wrote after an agent tried to modify files outside of the sandbox. All of that is inside of the AI Founders Vault. That link is down in the description below. Now let's look at point number 4, ecosystem versus self-efficiency. OpenClaw has the numbers. Over 13,700 community build skills as of February 2026, according to the ClawHub registry. And that number keeps climbing. ClawHub is the central registry, and the breadth of its integration is generally impressive. If you need a specific connector, someone has probably already built it. That's the power of being the most start project on GitHub. You attract contributors at scale, and really good ones as well, but also very risky ones. You see, Hermes takes the opposite bet. It ships with 40 plus built-in tools. Here's the part that really matters. It creates new skills autonomously through its learning loop. So remember those skill.md documents from part 2? That's not just memory. That's the agent building its own toolkit on the fly. So the question isn't which one has more tools. The question is, do you want a marketplace where you pick from what's available, or do you want a system that builds what it needs? Do you want breadth or do you want depth? Browser catalog, or do you train an agent or have the agent train itself? You see, for most non-technical founders that's currently building with AI and starting out, OpenClaw's ecosystem gets you to production perhaps faster. For builders who need compounding intelligence on specific workflows, Hermes Self-Sufficiency means you spend less time shopping for more plugins and more times shipping on what's actually moving the needle forward in your business, depending on what you build. And that is leading me to point number 5, which is which tool you should be using. To be clear, I'm not going to declare a winner because that would be dishonest. These frameworks solve different problems. You see, you can use OpenClaw when you need a multi-channel orchestration. You've got users on Slack, Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord, etc., and you need one agent brain behind all of it. OpenClaw was purpose-built for that routing layer, and nothing else does it as well, in my opinion. Also use it when you need quick access to a massive skill library and your use case is well served by existing community tools. Bear in mind the security flaws, just putting it out there. If you don't have the right security architecture set up on any of these agents, you are eventually going to find yourself running into some problems. Looking at Hermes, you can use Hermes when you need deep task execution. That gets better over time. Think about it for research pipelines, content creation workflows, anything where the agent runs the same class of tasks repeatedly and you wanted learning from each instead of starting fresh. And if you're a builder who's serious about not just testing, actually shipping, you can combine them. But the thing is the dual stack architecture that goes with it. And this is really what nobody in some form of comparison videos will tell you, because they haven't shipped both. You don't choose, you stack them. OpenClaw handles what it was designed for: channel routing, workspace operations, message orchestration across platforms. It's the front door. It knows how to talk to everything, while Hermes handles what was designed for complex tasks, execution with learning. It's the engine room. It gets smarter every time it runs. OpenClaw receives a task routed to the right context and hands execution off to Hermes. Hermes completes the tasks, writes what it learned, and the next time that type of task comes through, more accurate. The router doesn't need to learn. The executor doesn't need to root. Each framework does what it does best. That is where this is heading for anyone building production agent systems. Not one or the other, both in their proper roles. And you can build that today if you truly understand how to run with it. But you can also use either or. I know people in the community that just swear by OpenClaw, while others enjoy Hermes. And I must admit, I've been operating a lot on Hermes for the past month, and I must say I'm really enjoying it. My wife's using it. It's very, very easy to set up, to install, especially now with the desktop app that also came out. It might be much more user-friendly, especially if you're getting into the agentic realm, where OpenClaw, I would say, first get a familiarity with either Claude Code or Hermes Agent, and then move over to OpenClaw. But if you have the technical know-how, why not plug in both and also plug in local? And if you got something out of this, I do invite you to subscribe. I put out the agentic architecture breakdowns like this regularly for builders who actually ship and not just spectate. So drop a comment, which framework are you running right now and what is your biggest pain point with it? I read every comment, and the best questions become future videos. And if you want the dual stack architecture I just described, as well as all the other information I just mentioned, that is all stored inside of the AI Founders Vault community. See you in there.